everyone. My name is Sandhi. Today we're going to be speaking at Ms. Sukanya Kumar. Ms. Kumar received her bachelor's degree in Management Information Systems from the Rutgers Business School. During college, she worked at several companies such as Vice Media. After she graduated, she became a program manager at Comcast and has been working there for the past 3 years. Ms. Kumar, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you ready to get started?
Yep, ready.
Okay, perfect. So first, please share your story with us. What were your main interests in high school and academics and extracurriculars in high school?
I think throughout high school, my main focus was always sports and dance. I played softball, basketball, and volleyball. And then I was classically trained in Bharatanatyam.
Okay.
So my extracurriculars were a lot of my focus at the time. In terms of academics, my favorite classes were history classes and literature. So AP Lit, AP Lang, those were some of my favorites. And then any type of history or sociology type of class was my type of thing.
Okay.
But yeah.
So all of your sports, did you continue those in college?
I played recreationally after high school, but no, not on a team.
Okay. And then in terms of your academics, did you take any additional courses at Rutgers or anything?
So I took a few, I think general education requirements required 2 history classes. So 2 things that I wanted to learn more about that I thought were cool history classes that they offered at Rutgers was a South Asian history course, which you would think I might know enough about, but there's always more to learn.
Yeah.
And it was true because I learned a lot more than I guess my own culture, people of my own ethnicity would be able to teach me, because there's just certain things that we don't look too deep into. So it was really great learning it from a purely academic standpoint.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then I also took an LGBTQ course. So learned a lot about the history of the LGBTQ community in the United States and kind of just globally, and how the community has evolved and how they've kind of taken ownership of who they are. And I guess you could say the names that they've been given and the names that they choose to give themselves.
Oh, that's really interesting. So
Yeah.
what made you choose to go to Rutgers, and what other schools were you interested in?
So when I was in high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college yet. I had thought about, studying anthropology, psychology, law. I think my at the end I came between child behavioral psychology, and then my mom was kind of pushing me to go for business and IT. So of course, what mom says goes. So I ended up choosing business and IT as a field of study, or the general field that I wanted to go into and learn more about. So my top 2 schools were Rutgers and Penn State. Those were the ones that I really was looking at. I got into both, but chose Rutgers over Penn State just because it was closer to home.
Okay.
And it also has a really great business school, but also very close to New York City, whereas Penn State is quite far from major cities.
Right.
So yeah, being at Rutgers Business School was great because I was in Newark. I was 20 minutes away from New York City, which was really convenient for most of my internships because they were all in New York for the most part.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What activities were you involved in at Rutgers? Extracurriculars, clubs, all that?
So what was I in? There was a club called Rutgers Women in Business. I was a part of that. Then this other, I guess, I was a part of my sorority, Kappa Phi Gamma Sorority Incorporated. I was also a part of I guess you could say it was a team rather than a club. So the management information systems major or department rather, was quite small, as in not a lot of students chose that major.
Mhm.
And so because of that, I got a lot of one-on-one time with a lot of my professors.
Okay.
And so I worked very closely with some of the professors within the Management Information Systems department. And one specifically, Professor Vicuna, he taught a few classes. One was basically a data visualization class,
Okay.
which was one of the classes that kind of helped me realize what I wanted to do and kind of specifically go into, which was business analytics.
Mhm.
Um, and so I worked closely with him to kind of get a better understanding of the curriculum and also figure out how professors could teach it better
Mhm.
or in a way that students would understand better. Um, so that was really fun. We actually used um, the data visualization tool Power BI to create a visualization as to how students learn and what types of classes help them learn better.
Mhm.
So it was really cool. It was kind of research based. Wasn't really a club. It was kind of just me and two or three other students and the professor.
Mhm.
And we kind of just did it as a side project. And I think in terms of gain, it helped my professor learn to be a better professor, but
Mhm.
also kind of show it to his co-professors and kind of expand on teaching methodologies in that sense.
Okay. And the one-on-one time that you were talking about with your professors, did that help you, better understand curriculum, form better relationships?
Yeah, so I think one, so I guess another thing that when going back to your question about colleges, I had to choose between Rutgers Business School at New Brunswick versus Newark.
Mhm.
Um, Two reasons I chose Newark over New Brunswick. One was for the major. So MIS was only offered at Newark versus at New Brunswick, they had something called Business Analytics and Information Technology, which is very, very similar. But there was just a slight difference in curriculum. So what I did to figure out which actual program I wanted to do, I took out the titles and I compared the actual classes and looked at what I would be learning in those classes and showed it to a few people. And consensus was management information systems.
Mhm.
So that's one of the reasons why I chose that major. The reason that I chose Newark campus over New Brunswick in general was because of the class sizes. Newark is significantly smaller, and so especially when you get into your core classes, like my main MIS classes, there's I think like maybe 6 or 8 of them. Um, we ended up having classes of about 20 people max,
Okay.
which was amazing because in class you of course get more time to talk to the professors, but also you have that opportunity to make that relationship and they know who you are. They know how you are in class. They know the effort you're putting in your work, in your exams, your papers, all of that stuff. So I think making that relationship with the professor is huge. And because I went to Newark, I had the opportunity to do that a little bit more.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
So during college, you mentioned that you worked in New York at companies such as Circle Media, Vice Media. Can you tell us about those experiences, please?
Yeah. So for me, I am a very hands-on learner.
Mhm.
I do enjoy school, I guess, but the type of classes that I enjoy are classes in which a professor is speaking to me, not, writing on a board and I'm sitting and taking notes.
Mhm.
I really enjoy like a conversation type of class and doing projects so I can learn or expand my knowledge. Um, and then on top of that, being able to apply it in something like an internship or a job is
Mhm.
always super helpful, I think, in general, but especially for me. So I focused a lot on getting internships to do two things. One was to expand my knowledge and kind of figure out what I wanted to do once
Okay.
I graduated. So I started, my first internship was at Circle Media. I started that right after my freshman year of college.
Mhm.
Um, so at the time, well, throughout college, I was doing a lot of freelance photography,
Okay.
and photography classes are quite expensive. So at that point in time, I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I had it committed to MIS as my major, but it was still up in the air. So I decided to take up this internship where I could learn more about photography for free, and also learn graphic design
Okay.
and just like photo editing. So this internship was not paid per se. We got a stipend, but essentially I was getting free photography lessons and Photoshop tutorials by professionals, but also getting something for my resume.
Right.
And then also just being able to network and meet people and really learn about like what like the working life is. And so that was a really, really great opportunity for me. Again, like I think it's really difficult to have an internship that's unpaid, but I was able to manage it at the time. So it worked out for me. And I learned something that I used throughout college to make more money. So that worked really well for me. And at the time, that was when social media and I guess influencers and stuff like that was starting to become a little bit more popular. And so another thing I was looking into at the time was marketing and kind of marketing analytics. So that's why I chose that company. They are a social media company, but they work a lot with marketing analytics as well. So it was really cool to see both sides of that. And then that's kind of when I realized I don't want to do the social media side. I would probably want to do more of the marketing analytics side. So my next internship, I think, was Modern, which was a real estate company. I guess you could say a luxury real estate company in New York. And I was working as essentially a marketing analytics intern. And so with that, I got to do that hands-on stuff with what I thought I wanted to do at the time. But what it turned out to be was, again, more social media digging and stuff like that. But one good thing about that was I was able to learn a lot. So I learned a lot about search engine optimization. I did some Google certifications, things like that. Because at the time, again, I still thought I really wanted to go into marketing analytics. So I got fully trained in that, learned a lot, and decided I didn't want to do it. And I think that was a really valuable experience because I think it's really hard to figure out what you don't want to do. And once you've graduated college and you kind of get into that career, it sometimes may feel like it's too late to change. And so that's why I think internships are really, really important, because you get to test it out for most part for like an extended period of time, like 2 to 3 months at least. And you get to really learn and get some hands-on knowledge. And when you're working as an intern, they kind of just throw things at you. And if you need help, you have to ask and you have to figure it out yourself. So it's really great to learn and figure out if that's what you really want to do or not. And so that's kind of what I use my internships for throughout college. And with each internship, I figured out, okay, I don't like this portion of it, but I like this portion. And then I would look for another internship that kind of focused on that part that I liked. And that's actually how I ended up figuring out what I wanted to do.
So were any of your internships similar to your actual job now, or were most of them just to process on the
Yeah, so after Modern, I ended up working at Penguin Random House, and I started in the IT department. So I did 2 rounds of internships there because they were, I think, 3-month internships each.
Okay.
So I started in the IT department, and it was very basic IT type things. So very software focused. I was working with, the software development team. I was learning a lot about agile development and like the difference between agile and waterfall methods, and kind of just getting a basic understanding of that stuff and working very closely with the entire like software development team. So that was really cool because at that point in time, I didn't really know much. This was kind of my first step into IT, I guess you could say, right? Again, figured out, don't really want to go into software engineering that deep. I did a lot of programming in that role, realized that wasn't really for me. Um, but I actually made some connections while I was at Penguin Random House those first 3 months. And so that's how I got my second internship there with my new boss, who I kind of had helped out or with a project or two while I was there the first time. So I convinced him to kind of hire me again for the summer. And so with him, he was still in the IT department, but he focused on analytics. So that's where I got to really kind of jump into analytics and apply. So at that time, I was taking that course in data visualization in college. And so I was able to apply what I was learning in class, which was Power BI, and apply it at work. And so the really cool thing was at work, they didn't use Power BI. But I used the software that I had that I was using for school, and I played with the data that I was getting at work. And I kind of made some workbooks for them to look at, and they saw some benefit in it. And so they ended up using it, actually like purchasing the software, and we ended up using it continuously. I think they still do now. So the cool thing with that was, one, I love books. So working in the publishing industry was awesome for me because I got a lot of free books. But also you just learn a lot about the industry specifically. So a lot of the analytics that I did was on sales. So we studied the difference between how books sell, the time period. So there are different types of books, right? There's a hardcover, there's a soft cover, but there's a bunch of different types of things in between. A lot goes into the type of material they use for the covers and the, if you've seen some of the books, like maybe, I don't know if you've seen Circe by Madeline Miller, the book is metallic. So we studied that book specifically, like that cover cost a lot of money to make, and just trying to figure out how to make the most money and at what point in time will we make our money, which is a huge thing because when you get into finance, it's, are you making, if you're starting to sell this book beginning of the year, are you going to make the money Q1 or are you going to make it Q4? So just kind of getting a better understanding of that. This is really cool because I got to incorporate a lot of other departments like finance and billing for stuff like this. And then I also learned a lot about GDPR, which is something that kind of sprung up at that time, which is about, privacy and data compliance.
Okay.
Which I know you're looking to go into law. So that's a really cool space actually. And that was something that I was also looking at. But so you see, like, when you do internships, you get to see how different departments intertwine with the work that you're doing. And I think that's one of the coolest parts. So again, this is kind of where I saw that I wanted to go into analytics. And then my next role was at Vice, where I really got to jump really hardcore in that. I also really enjoyed the publishing industry, which I think is another great thing that you'll learn from internships is what industry you want to work in, because I think that makes a huge, huge difference. You could do analytics in any industry at all, but I had really taken a liking to publishing and media and technology. I really like the space, I like the culture, the work environment, everything. And I think that makes a huge difference. Super, super different than banking and like the financial sector. So I think that's huge. I always kind of knew that I don't want to work in banking or finance, but this kind of solidified that for me. So then when I worked at Vice, I was a global business analytics intern, which is super, super vague. I did analytics across multiple platforms. So Vice is a multimedia company. So, they have TV, they have magazines, they have documentaries and all of this stuff, right? And they have websites. So we studied things across every single platform. We studied how many users or how many people were going on the website, what times they were going on the website, what types of articles were people clicking on, things like that. So again, that kind of goes back into the marketing and search engine optimization and stuff like that. So we kind of helped every platform in different ways. And so that was really, really fun for me. I got to talk to a lot of people, got to meet a lot of people. And Vice was a really cool, fun company to work for too. So I think, there's a lot to learn from internships, and there's a lot of fun to be had as well.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. You got so much exposure to all the different industries and everything.
Mhm.
Yeah, so now you're a program manager at Comcast. So tell us about your daily responsibilities and how you've grown in the company.
Yeah, so my daily responsibilities are, I guess, pretty pretty same. Like day to day, I run pretty much the same reports. So basically what I do is I run reporting and metrics for our engineering operations team.
Oh,
Comcast is split between our business services and our residential services. So I work with our engineering operations team.
okay.
Um, so our engineering operations team supports the software engineers. So we do incident change and problem management.
Mhm.
Incident management is essentially when, for example, the internet stops working, creates an incident. Our incident management team will work with the software development teams to figure out what happened, why it broke, and
Mhm.
fix it as soon as possible to make sure our customers can get back to work, get back to doing whatever they were supposed to be doing. And then we have a problem management team that essentially investigates what happened, why did it happen, how long did it take to fix it, why did it take so long, all of that fun stuff. So I'm part of the problem management team, so I'm part of that investigation portion.
Mhm.
And then I take that information and I run reporting and metrics on it, and I provide our reports to senior leadership. So the reports that I do pretty much go all the way up to our president.
Mhm.
And from there, we are able to understand what is happening in terms of what's breaking, why is it breaking, and how do we improve our customer experience. Um, our goal is to ensure that our customers have the best experience that they could possibly have.
Mhm.
Um, and that includes making sure that our products and services just work all the time.
Mhm.
But of course, sometimes they don't. So when they don't, we need to figure out why, and we need to get it back on track as soon as possible. Um, so I guess my day to day is pretty much just running reports on, what's happened the day before, what broke, how did we fix it, all of that stuff. And it's just a continuous loop of that. Um, I have, you know, daily, weekly, monthly, uh, quarterly, and yearly reports that I run. I think it gets pretty monotonous in that sense, but I guess one way that I've grown, or I've helped this role grow, is by, similar to one of my internships. When I started here, they were using Excel to manage and store their data, which is not very fun for the
Mhm.
amount of data that we work with.
Yeah.
Um, so I actually suggested that they use Tableau, which is another data visualization tool, which was not met with a lot of enthusiasm. So I had to convince them to use Tableau, and Tableau is very expensive. So it's almost like $3,000 a year
Oh,
per
wow.
user. Yeah, so I continuously signed up for free Tableau trials so I could make these dashboards so I could show my boss and my VP and say, hey, look, this is the benefit in using a data visualization tool as opposed to Excel.
Mhm.
Um, and at some point, I finally convinced them after a few free trials. And then they finally got me a license. And so one thing that I'm working on right now that I've been slowly doing for about a year or so now is automating all of our reports. So
Okay.
by doing that, I have, with some of the reports that I've already created, I've significantly reduced the time that it takes to run and view these reports. I've been able to create data visualizations that just exist, and then a user can come click a button to essentially refresh the page, and it'll show them refresh data. So it'll show them pretty much data in real time up until like 15 to 20 minutes prior.
Okay.
So this has been super helpful because it instead of someone, messaging me and saying, hey, can you pull this up? Can you create like a slide deck for this? Which may take me an hour. They can go on here. I've already created a few dashboards that have things that people ask for quite often. They go, they run it, they screenshot it, or they download it, and it's there for them. So this really helps with, especially with our group, with the way things happen. Everything is very high speed. So when they need data, they need it now. But they also need to be able to understand the data, and giving someone an Excel file and saying, hey, here's the data is really difficult, because then they need to create a pivot table and they need to make their own graph. And it's just a pain, right? So by doing this, it's essentially cut down the time and cut down the headache. And they're able to say, okay, I need an answer, and they can click a button and they have an answer. And so I think that's been a really, really fun project for me in the last year and a half or so. I've been in this role for 3 years now, but it's, like I said, it's taken time to convince everyone to get on board with this. I'm also the only one on my team of about 100 or so people that does any sort of reporting and analytics.
Okay.
So most people don't really understand what the point of it is until I show them. So it's always kind of like a little tug of war with it to try to convince people to like open up, explain what they do, so that I can get a better understanding. And when I understand what they do, I'm able to create a dashboard that will answer questions that they may have. So yeah, that's been really fun for me.
Yeah, that's great that you could increase efficiency like that. So do you think in the near future, more of your colleagues could start using this technology, or would it just be you with your unique role?
So the company itself, there's quite a few people and quite a few groups that use Tableau. Within my group, they're pretty much everyone is an engineer. We are expanding, in a sense, our analytics group. So we have recently hired a few more people that I'm training to kind of assist with this automation task. But the idea is that Tableau it's very user friendly. So anyone in the group can look at the dashboard, can kind of drill down in it. But in terms of creating it themselves, that would require a bit of training, and obviously a lot of open budget for that. So that may just remain with me. But I'm hoping that with the expansion of like automating all of these dashboards, people will understand the value behind it, and hopefully they will increase budget, and they will want to look more into kind of providing more budget and more manpower towards analytics and reporting, because I think there's a lot of value in it. And I think answering a question before it becomes an issue is huge. And that's something that has been able to be proven with these dashboards. So we're taking it baby step at a time, but we're getting there. So hopefully soon.
Got it. So in terms of your future career path, do you have any goals or anything that you want to meet in the next year or two?
So I love this question about short-term and long-term goals, because I think for me, I don't have like a goal position. I don't have like I want to be VP or director in the next 5 years. My goal, and this is something that I've learned quite recently after working here, I truly enjoy the task or the mission of improving customer experience. So like I said, right, our team works to ensure that our products and services are running constantly. Comcast is an amazing technology company with crazy amounts of innovation and just intelligence. I think that's one of the best things about working here is I've gotten to learn so much about so much different technology. And they really encourage people to kind of think outside of the box and kind of try new things so we can create more cool technology, right? So for example, we have a voice remote, and I'm sure you've seen it. It's like similar to Siri on your phone, right? You press a button and you can speak, and it takes the words and it searches. There's a robot behind it, right? So there's actually this technology or this company called Nuance, which is a voice to text company. So they take your words and they convert it to text and they essentially search it, right? So we have that on our remote. And what it does is it allows people who want to do it for fun, but more so people who are visually impaired to be able to speak into a remote and find a show, a movie, a documentary, whatever it is that they're looking for without trying to figure out, which button is which and, can't see the screen properly and the little buttons on the screen. So this just makes for a more inclusive environment in terms of entertainment, right?
Mhm.
So we have different technologies that do things like that, right? That essentially create a more inclusive environment for someone to just relax and be with their family, right? We are all able-bodied in different ways. And so that is something that I think is really, really cool that Comcast does. And I would love to be a part of that,
Mhm.
kind of the research and development and innovation, and just creating new technology. I couldn't tell you what that new technology is because I haven't thought of it yet.
Right.
But hopefully one day, I think I don't want to be the person like sitting there and making a remote.
Mhm.
I really enjoy doing research, and I think that's a huge thing. And I would like to dive deeper into the analytics side of that to do the research.
Mhm.
Um, and I think, at the rate we're going, we have new technology, every 6 months. So I couldn't tell you where I'd be in another year or two. But yeah, my goal is to ideally be a part of a team that encourages innovation and research and development to create more technology that improves customer experience and creates a more inclusive environment for our customers.
Yeah, that sounds great. So for the last question, what advice would you give to high schoolers looking to study business or to work at a big company like Comcast?
Um, I think, let's see. I think one really important thing is, something that you're doing right now, right? You are talking to people in different industries and different areas of expertise, and you're trying to get a better idea of what they do, how they got there, what path they took, what mistakes they made, and what they liked, what they didn't like. And that's huge, right? You are not necessarily going to have the same experience that anyone that you speak to does,
Mhm.
but you're going to learn a lot from all of the experiences that you've heard. So
Mhm.
I think that's super, super important. And on top of that, it's kind of just, stepping out of your comfort zone, willing to try new things. Um, you know, Sometimes it'll be hard. Like my freshman year doing an internship that wasn't paying me, but traveling to New York from New Jersey, it costed me money. I was actually at a loss, right?
Mhm.
But for me, it was worth it because I found value in getting free photography classes and free editing classes, right? So there's always a value in something, you just have to find it. And if you're willing to work for it, you can make it happen. So I think that's that's really important, um, in terms of just getting that experience. As for school, I would say when you're trying to pick a college or a major, it's really important. I think most college tours do this. They say, you need to figure out if you want to be a little fish in a big pond or a big fish in a little pond.
Mhm.
So that makes a huge difference, right? It sounds more like of a social aspect, but it's not, right? It's also about classes. Do you want to be one of 20 students or do you want to be one of 300 students?
Mhm.
You, as one of 300 or one of 20, can still make the same effort to go talk to a professor after hours, but that professor also has either 300 students or 20 students to talk to.
Right.
So it's really, really important to figure out, what is the type of learning that you desire. For me, like I said, I enjoy having conversations and like a discussion to really learn and
Mhm.
projects and things like that. So that is something that helped me pick, okay, I want to go to a smaller school where I can get time to talk to my professor. I can go to him. I have had lunches and dinners and, you know, coffees with my professors, and I've been able to sit down and talk to them. Whereas I know people who have gone to bigger schools who haven't had that same opportunity.
Mhm.
And I think that makes a huge, huge difference. Also, like with, recommendation letters and everything afterwards. But also when it just comes to your education, that's huge. So I think really understanding how you learn is a huge part of it. And that may take some trial and error, but that's really important to kind of think of before you go into college, and kind of how you decide which college you want to go to.
Mhm.
As for major, I will say, I think it's very, very important, and this sounds kind of obvious, but it's very important that you do well in school, regardless of your major.
Mhm.
I think unless you're going into the medical field or law or um, something that you cannot learn on your own, you need to make sure that you do something you enjoy and that you succeed at it. So if that means you study history,
Mhm.
that's fine. Get a 4.0, study history. If you have the drive and you have the desire to go into business and technology or consulting or programming, you can take classes, you can minor in any of that.
Mhm.
And you can learn that on your own too. There are so many avenues to learn these things on your own now. You can go on YouTube, you can go on Udemy, Google has a bunch of classes and certificate programs that you can do. So I think it's really important that you do well, but you also like have that passion and that desire to kind of go for what you're looking for. But I
Mhm.
think one misconception people have is, okay, well, if I study history, I can only do history. That's not true. One thing you'll see in the technology field is a lot of people have really random majors. Um, I have a degree in management information systems, but I've worked with people in IT departments and analytics departments that have degrees in philosophy, in history, in art, in philosophy and sociology, and like all of these really random things. But what's gotten them to where they are is that desire to keep learning about anything and
Mhm.
everything. They find something that they're interested in and they keep going for it. So while I was fortunate enough to kind of figure out what I wanted to do in college and kind of pursue that through a academic course, um, there are less paved paths, I guess you could say, right? You can take this up on your own. There are also people in the technology space who have not gone to college and who are very, very successful.
Mhm.
One of my mentors, who is our VP, um, she did not go to college, and she's currently our VP of a quite large department. And I would be very proud to say she's my mentor, and she's pretty badass, excuse my language. She has worked really, really, really hard. If you look at her, I guess, resume or her career path, maybe she's had to work harder than someone who did go to college because she had to get that hands-on experience. But like I said, it's the drive and it's the motivation to keep moving forward and to keep doing better. And that's gotten her to be a VP of a really big team in a really big, amazing company.
Mhm. Wow, that sounds like
Yeah,
great advice. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else
yeah.
to share?
Um, no, I don't think so. Just good luck. I hope the rest of your interviews go really well. And I
Mm.
hope, the little that I know was helpful to someone out here.
No, your experiences were really interesting, and I'm sure they're going to help a lot of high school students. So thank you.
Yeah.